to the whitest house. Slave souls haunt the halls when the light is out. They suck the blood of the poor and the
your entire political identity,
gas of a world that is dying out. Welcome to the whitest house, where every room is a tomb that they lie about. Where you can put your filthy feet on the finest couch, and for the right amount, you can even buy it out.
Essence of your entire political identity. You might be a white supremacist.
First of all, I do want to say it's white supremacy to complain about us being late. All right, let's not start that. Okay. That we have to be on time. Okay, we're gonna get to this white supremacy when we get to it. All right. So we about 5 minutes late, but we here now. Welcome to This Week in White Supremacy. My name is Sirius. I'm co-founder and CEO of One Hood Media. The man to my immediate right or left, depending on how you're looking at the screen.
Treble Nellis, NLS, never liked supremacy. It makes my heart break. You know what I'm saying? We out here.
We out here. Cool. And come in live from wherever place she is. We're not going to give that. We're not going to give her secret location up.
Listen, what's up? It's your girl, Miracle. You know, the other half, the better half of the Wonder Twins. You know, I'm just here so I don't get fined. Here to tell the truth. Here,
can you actually play darts?
I actually can. Can.
Okay. You know, she said put your money up next time you see her, bro.
All right.
That's what that One Hood Day. We're gonna play darts and spades and dominoes. You know, if we can afford the fee.
Just tell Farouk that if we can afford the $140,000.
Right.
Too soon.
To have police come.
Yeah, that.
Lord have mercy. All right, Mr. Shades, what's up, bro?
I'm sleepy.
All right, so
niggas love sleep, man. Sai loves sleep, man. Niggas love sleep, man.
I mean, since you brought it up, Miracle. I mean, I guess we can. You don't want to start there? Oh, so let's start.
Since you brought it up, Miracle.
No, let's start with Zapala. And so we're coming right to you, Miracle. We start with Zapala. We talked about it last week on the show. For those that don't know, Stephen Zapala is the Allegheny County District Attorney. So the story goes that a black lawyer named Milton Rayford basically was, in the court, and in his, I guess, wrap up, called the DA's office systemically racist, which is a fact. But black folk get punished, assassinated, beat up, lynched for telling the truth. I mean, in this country, that's the reality of this country. So I guess when Zapala heard it, he was mad and, told his office not to, do any plea deals, negotiation with this black lawyer. But more so, he was bold enough to put it in writing. I mean, he basically was like, I don't care. It came out. All these people calling him to step down. He put a statement out. He's not stepping down, but I guess his office put a statement out, or he put another statement out saying that he's changed directions. He's gonna.
He went to Miracle's Racist Rehab. Him and Papa John had a meeting, and he got some Papa John's pizza, and he was like, you know what? Real ingredients, real niggas. I'm not racist anymore. I'm going to N-word training. I'm gonna go to nigga training.
Bro, so listen, me and Nate were talking about this. How it's ironic how Milton calls out the system for being systemically racist, and he pulls a white supremacist card right after. It's like you proved his point, bro.
He was like,
"What do you think he was talking about?"
He was like, I'm racist. I'll show you how racist I am.
Yeah, he's like, did you mean this? You must have meant this.
You and every black person that you represent are going to jail.
Like, why don't he was just like, seriously, like, none of you niggas is getting plea deals. No niggas is getting plea deals. Like, if you black, no plea deal.
So, Miracle, we'll come to you. What does this rescinding, what does this mean? How long was it? I mean, was it? And I guess Milton didn't know Like, and I know that was also the interesting part. He didn't call the brother and say, "Hey, check this out, man. You want to call me racist? No more plea deals." He didn't even know. So he's operating, wondering, I guess, why his clients weren't getting plea deals. Does this mean that now the DA's office is less racist, Miracle?
No, it's not. It means when you call people out on their stuff, it matters. That's why community organizing matters. At the end of the day, the right to plea deal, the right to please negotiate, it follows the individual being prosecuted. It does not follow the attorney, right? So if you want to push out or have issues with the attorney, you start to harm their clients. And what this did was basically possibly shed light into how this DA works and how he possibly has operated into the past. And we don't know what's going to happen because obviously nobody, like in Pennsylvania, really wants to investigate the DA. It's just not politically expedient. And nobody is really going to want to like open that can of worms. And so probably nothing will really happen. He'll probably get sanctioned and have to make an apology and a fine/donation somewhere. But no, it doesn't make it less racist. It's highly problematic. And you have to think about, how do you in the legal community call out problematic behavior if you can't say it's racist? If you're misgendering somebody in the courtroom, why can I call you transphobic? If you're harming people, why can I call it out, right? And this has been a huge issue, not only in Pittsburgh, but in the legal community in general, because it's racist. Like, I went to law school. Law school will tell, like, they tell you the first week in criminal law, like, our system is racist. We harm Black people. It's just the way it is.
Hey, Miracle. I think that's some of that critical race theory that has been banned.
You know what?
Pennsylvania.
Critical race theory came out of legal theory, so it's why. But yeah, you know, so I don't. It's just Pittsburgh is going to Pittsburgh. Gingers, I need y'all to get together. But, so, you know, it's Wednesday. White supremacy is winning. It's going to continue to win. But it's life.
Right. And, you know, so let's just put out, and I remember this happened 11 years ago when Judge Joe Williams, shout out to Judge Williams, you know, called, you know, into account, you know, what he thought was the sentencing irregularities when it came to, you know, Black people being sentencing versus white people being sentencing. You know, he called out judicial bias. And, you know, I know, just like you said, the process is, but I did see people call on the Supreme Court, because I believe the process is like the Supreme Court has to like put some sanctions on him. Then the Senate would have to vote. Then the governor will have to sign off. So it is this long, arduous process.
The Supreme Court, where his father used to work.
I mean, you know,
you gotta think. You gotta think about like the legacy, and we're talking about systemic. Yeah, it's just not politically expedient for any district attorney, for any attorney general to go against someone who has such strong ties to the community. Shapiro is possibly running either for Senate or governor. He's not going to do it. Even if there was a can of worms and a whistleblower that was like, they are actually racist and they said X, Y, and Z, it's not going to happen. Biden doesn't want to deal with race. Like, Biden can't do nothing right now. No, like, he's like,
definitely, if it's like some of Black people, like they just pushing it, it directly aside. Yeah, no, I think
it's a mess.
Yeah, I mean, and I think you make a good point. It is, and it's even the fact that it is that hard to get rid of an attorney general, when it should be, you know, if you're like the law decider, and if you as the law decider break the law or do something that's illegal or immoral, it should be, you know, to me, relatively easy to get rid of you. But like you said, the fact that it takes all of those machinations, that's also like white supremacy built in. It's like protection against your whiteness, that you can kind of continue to harm folks. And like you said, this was what came out. Lord knows what he said to people or what's happening behind the scenes. Like, if he's this, I mean, this is a level of petty. Like, this is some super, super pettiness right here, where he wasn't, you know, like you said, he's in a sense proving what Milton said was correct. And so clearly it needs to be investigated. But like you said, I mean, part of what we need to do is plan for 2023. If he decides to run again, we need to find a candidate and get him up out of there like they did in Philly and other places as well. So, we got to really kind of take this into our own hands, because it doesn't look like he's going to resign willingly. And Lord knows what these machinations for Zapala, if anybody will do it, or there will be any investigation. Any other comments, last comments, words?
Zapala didn't say anything about Black people directly, but the idea that you are talking about a Black attorney that works predominantly with Black clients allows for this assumption, it's probably correct assumption, that this would actually make it difficult for Black people to get plea deals and Black people to stay out of prisons and jails. And so it's very important that we talk about the racial elements of the situation, and just hopefully we can move on and have people call in and have a racial assessment being released of the policies and procedures. We don't know how many Black people work at the district attorney's office. We don't know how many Black people are district attorneys. None of that stuff. So hopefully they're going to be releasing some reports of their own, and we can figure out how racist or anti-racist their office is.
Now, Miracle, is that something that we could do? Could we, and when I say we, I mean as a community, could we come together as a community and say we want to have somebody put some data together to say okay, and because Apollo's been there for 25 years, to say, okay, in his 25 years, how many Black people has served in his office, how many, and kind of look at even, the disparity in some of those cases, because, we got involved in the DA race in 2019 because of these really horrible disparities, particularly amongst juvenile Black people. Then there was that case where you had these 4 young Black people in jail for, I think it was over a year, even though they actually had evidence that they did not do this crime. And so it's could we come together as a community and have that assessment done, or would they have to participate in that?
So they could participate in it because they are the source of the data. The problem is they protect the data sometimes. And so the accuracy of what's going to be reported through a Freedom of Information Act, or just a cursory search of the Pennsylvania website, may not be as correct. But yeah, that's definitely something we can get with the outcomes. What we won't be able to get is the racial hiring data if it's not reported, and we won't be able to get the information about the plea deals when the pleas were made, and we also won't be able to get the information about the jurors. Because the DA has that information. So there's some stuff that we can put out as a community, but there's a lot of stuff the DA themselves have to put out.
That would be super, super interesting. So it is, and I think maybe that's something because like you said, if the powers that be aren't gonna make an investigation, and they used to do it people's tribunals, you know what I'm saying? Let's bring him in his office to the People's Court. I know Abolitionist Law Center, somebody that's good at collecting data. Maybe we can kind of, come together and see if we can do that as a community. But it is kind of like you said, it's kind of this, thing in Pittsburgh where it's, and I don't know, I'm seeing it as a Pittsburgh thing, but maybe that's because I'm here. But maybe it's just the nature of politics to be very much, but it seems like in Pittsburgh, it happens where people in power, if they don't like you, will do these things to prevent you from rising. You know what I'm saying? Or go to foundations.
Doesn't that sound I would say, doesn't that sound familiar? Go to foundations and attempt to cut funding and asking people to step down from positions. That sounds very Pittsburgh-esque.
So I just want to pull this comment up from Celeste. She said the DA said he's going to put this data together. I'm sorry, 11 years ago. We can use Freedom of Information Act. All right. So maybe we put together something, and maybe a community demand. You know what I'm saying? Maybe that's something that we do. We probably shouldn't be talking about it live on white supremacy, but I say that to say, we had talked about, we had referenced it You know, a thing, a Pittsburgh viral Facebook post kind of happened today around the Juneteenth event that's supposed to happen in a couple weeks, and it was about this, you know, $140,000 fee that the police charge to do security at this event, and whether or not this brother had to pay this $150,000 or $140,000, or whether he didn't. And so we kind of just talked about in pre-production just the idea of like that if you're doing an event in the city of Pittsburgh, that to have to pay police, is this, and I don't know, like I've never heard that you had to pay police additional money, because I'm thinking that if you have an event and people are going to be there, that
like you pay for the permit. You pay for the permit. Like
I thought the police were supposed to keep us safe. I didn't know.
The sad thing is,
I mean,
now they become mercenaries.
I know.
Isn't that where tax dollars go? If I'm not mistaken.
That's what I'm saying, Trouble, because it almost is like, it's like, what did the mafia do? It's kind of like, you know, like
Payola?
Protection fees.
No, yeah, protection fees. It's like, oh, you want to have an event? Oh, well, we're not.
It'd be a shame if somebody got shot there. Give us that 140,000, right? You know what I mean? Like the police will come up and shoot. Yeah,
you gotta check
like, that's what I'm saying. I say this all the time. The police are the most organized gang in the world. Like they doing extortions, right? They do all this shit. Like the fact that
they are the mafia. I told you.
Somebody said they show up free as fuck for protest. That's what we gotta do.
Bro.
We gotta say it to protest. We gotta say, yeah, yo, we want that as big protest. And then we bring in like Jay-Z and Beyonce. Y'all are here in your riot gear. Guess what? Thank you for coming to secure our venue.
So, yeah, right.
We gotta end the protest at Point State Park.
Someone had a protest at a Beyonce concert. Like, damn, like you know what I mean?
Which the police actually boycotted. If you
what you say?
The police actually boycotted Beyonce.
Oh yeah.
Remember they were mad that Beyonce had the nerve to like honor the Black Panthers. Like, how dare you, Black woman, honor the Black Panther? But I mean, is this like I don't know. Is it? I'm asking you again, Miracle. Is this legal? Obviously it is, but how?
Because your freedoms are not free. They come at the price of safety and law and order. And how are we going to maintain safety and protect bike lanes and streets if we don't have police officers and riot gear to block them off? But at the end of the day, what is really supposed to happen is when you have a quote unquote large scale event, in case of mass violence or mass harm, police are supposed to be staffed. It wasn't me. Police are supposed to be staffed in order to respond. And so that's why you're supposed to pay the security fee. However, a lot of people want to provide their own security. We have our own support, our own training. And the idea that you have to like pay police this fee, I think it's ridiculous. And it also shows the way in which policing is so ingrained in our society and culture that we get and think about on a day that we're commemorating the end of slavery, you're being told you have to pay the slave catcher in order to have this event.
That's a great point. That is a great point, Miracle. Like that.
I won't be here all week. That's my one.
But I mean, and you make a great point, especially in this environment. Like I'm going with my family. It's Juneteenth. It's some Black stuff. I might not want to see a bunch of police officers and feel that tension, and you there and you mugging me, and you know what I'm saying, like. You know, I might not want to feel that, but that is wow. Even on Juneteenth, you got to pay $140,000 for some police. But I mean, I think that is once again, hey, that's something we need to look into and say, like, is this a law on paper? What? Because that's my thing. Like, if you're already getting over $100 million, this is kind of what Trouble was saying. Hey, yo, that's $100 million we paying y'all yearly. Ain't enough. This like every 30 cents of every dollar we spend, that's not enough. You know what I'm saying? We got to give you even more money. That this 100 million ain't gonna staff you. Like, nah, man, nah.
And for the thing that Kevin just posted, we specifically say officers don't show up to a protest. We can place our own protest. We will leave. This idea that people are sent in droves. Like, I don't know if people were actually out protesting in Pittsburgh, but like, I had never seen so many like unmarked vans. So many, like, it was just like fleets of vehicles, and it was like, for why? People were going to leave. Nobody was out here like messing stuff up. And it's like, it's cost so much. In some places, it was saying that like $9,000 per officer for like the gear and all type of stuff. And it's like, people are just going to leave. Like, one broken window was not going to amount to $9,000. You're literally wasting so much funding deploying all of these officers to protest. And these events, when in reality, people will call you if they need you. People can set up training and staffing. There is a lot of private security. There are a lot of retired police officers, retired soldiers, take that morally however you will, who do security. And so it seems to be very problematic.
No, I mean, it's like you don't see a bunch of like ambulances showing up. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, we have community medics that will come, and if folks pass out, folks do their thing and help them. And guess what? If it goes beyond the limit of these medics, we can call the ambulance and have an ambulance come. You know what I'm saying? So you're exactly right. It's the same thing. Like, it's particularly when, most protests, they did the study, like 95% of all protests were peaceful anyway. And so we didn't need you anyway. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I think
what's interesting. So y'all got me thinking because it's like they want them to pay for police protection, and now it's like I didn't even consider like why would they need to pay for police protection? It's like, when does an event or celebration ever need police presence for the entire for the duration of the event? You know what I'm saying? I don't see police down at fucking Arts Festival, you know what I'm saying, when they got the tents up and shit and multiple performances. You feel me? So why do we need police at Juneteenth? Is it to protect the park from the people there? You feel me? It makes no sense.
Right. Our police is like, and that's the thing, just like you said, like, if it's I would think like, hey, a Steeler game is gonna happen. We probably should have some police down there because it's going to be 60,000 people. Like, do the Steelers have to pay for every game they have? Like, this doesn't make any sense. You know what I'm saying? It literally makes no sense. And so once again, and I was going to say, yeah, we're going to look into it as one hood. We're going to look into it. We about to change the city up. Ain't that right, Miracle?
We all about to be in jail because we're going to be a big hit list.
So anyway, right, please, yeah, right. We done talked about the DA and the police. One hood was charged today.
It's only a matter of time. Yeah, watch it. Do we have to pay police for our event?
No. Hey,
good.
Look, hey, and this is my thing. My thing is like, I don't know.
What you gonna do? Not come if we don't pay you?
Exactly.
They don't pay us, or we shut the event down.
Yeah, I don't want to go to jail. Right. And that's what I'm saying. And then it's like, like, my thing is, okay, if you want to show up and say either you pay us or we shut the event down, we gonna record that. You know what I'm saying? And we're gonna say, really, is this what you're gonna say to black people in the worst city in America for black women? You're gonna have the police show up on Juneteenth. Is that what you're gonna try to tell me?
I'm an introvert, so I'd be sad publicly, but on the inside, I'm like, yes, I can go home.
Hey, you one of them people? You didn't want to be at the event anyway, America. you have spent enough time. But I'm saying, like, the idea that the police would come and shut down Juneteenth. It's like, if you're that bold, you know what I'm saying? I mean, they are. We know they are. But is you that bold? I mean, come with it. I don't know. That's how I would be. I ain't paying. Come with it. You wanna show black people and shut down Juneteenth? That's what you want to do? Nah. I ain't, what I mean, but we don't want that to happen.
Cancel the spades tournament so nobody fights.
We're gonna hopefully we hope the event well. we hope the event goes well. We hope, the city and then work it out. But that would be wild. You know what I'm saying? That would be one point with Pittsburgh. It would be like some Pittsburgh shit. So I guess we can kind of move, we want to kind of move to some national stuff. And we talked about how, and we knew, deep down inside, we knew that we were voting for a kinder, gentler white supremacist. When we voted for Biden and Harris.
Sleepy Joe.
But I guess, I don't know. Maybe we thought maybe the first 100 days, maybe they'd be a little bit, and this is what's wild about politics. Kamala and Joe Biden know that they're in there for black people, but are still and brown folks, and still kind of behaving like they don't care. Kamala went to, I think it was Guatemala. And, these are one of these countries that the United States foreign policy has messed up. This is the thing. You messed it up, United States. And, here's Kamala. I guess I thought it was going to be Kyler Jenner white supremacy. He said, no, I'm going to give y'all a gold glass of white supremacy. So let's play what Kamala said. And is this Mexico or Guatemala? One of these countries. You can Google it and find out. I guess it tells you right in the clip.
To be clear to folks in this region who are thinking about making that dangerous trek to the United States-Mexico border.
She cares. It's kinder.
Do not come. The United States
will not help
continue
you.
to enforce our laws and secure our border. There are legal methods by which migration can and should occur. But we, as one of our priorities, will discourage illegal migration.
Look at me, you about to get in your bag.
And I believe if you come to our border, you will be turned back.
This is. Let me say something. Right.
Go off.
Your parents came here from migration. Okay.
Show's over. I'm just playing. That's it.
And this is the thing. There's a huge divide in an immigrant community, and I'm speaking as somebody who is the proud child of immigrants. Right. I am an immigrant by definition. Just because you came here legally, that doesn't make you better than the rest of us. Right. When people come here and they forget where they came from, let's just keep it all the way a buck. All right, let's keep it tall. Jamaica and India are countries that suffered at the hands of colonialism and white supremacy. So your parents left that to come to the States to try to do something better. And for you to fix your fucking mouth to go to someone else's yard and say,
in their country, stay your ass at home.
What does that even see? And this is why, we couldn't really, me personally, I wanted to make sure I was cool with Clear for Miracle before, because I didn't want to bash a black woman, in these areas. But we couldn't. No, I'm just saying,
Miracle was leave me out of your rant.
No, I couldn't fuck with Kamala because it's you show no allegiance to black people in the Bay. You incarcerated so many of us, right? You came here and you used that bullshit, whatever the fuck that shit is, to get you more black votes, pose on Vogue and did all of this.
I think that's a sorority sign.
Shit is whack, whatever it is, right? But she gonna go and then, and then go to and then say tell people who are oppressed from the United States government, don't come here. Right. Don't come here. What does that even sound like? In which universe is that okay? And then you're gonna pull the card when it was convenient. Oh, my parents aren't from the States. I grew up a multicultural background, and I'm this, and I'm that.
When it's convenient to you, yeah.
Exactly. You're playing
and it goes just to, I remember Obama was one of the, they called him the deporter in chief. You know what I'm saying? Over 1 million people deported, and it was oh yeah, we're gonna. When we found out that the jails were still operating, it was we're going to put the kids in jail, but, they're going to have, better blankets. I don't know, some craziness. And so it is wild to kind of see this happen, particularly because the United States and particularly the Democratic Party have a history of putting a face of color on white supremacy and kind of sending people of color out.
Say that again.
Yeah, they put a face of color around white supremacy and sending people of color out to enforce this white supremacy rhetoric and mindset. Because like you said, even coming to this country legally it's like a thing of privilege. Some folks don't have the ability to wait because of the situation they're in is so dire. You know what I'm saying?
You're not even allowed to work. You're not even allowed to work when you come here. So you already have to come for money. That's the thing. Like that, there's an arrogance to say that.
Right. Well, I mean, and this kind of goes back to that's what we represent. I do want to come to you, Miracle. Like, is this like what do we say? First of all, shout out to the AKAs. You know, we rock with the AKAs real heavy. You know what I'm saying? On this side. So shout out to y'all. But what do we say to people that like we encourage folks to vote for, what do we say? Are we saying like don't vote, hold our vote? What are we saying?
No, because the lesser of two evils hates us a little bit more, so you have to vote for harm reduction and protection.
Yes.
But we have to be very honest. I know we before the election talked about how this election was not going to save us. It would help some people, and people would still be harmed. That's why we have to fight for abolition and liberated communities, and that's why we do the work that we still do. But it's very important to seek asylum. You have to be in the jurisdiction of the sovereign nation that you are seeking asylum to, because that is how the United States has created our law. So people have to come to the border to get help. And what could have been done is, the vice president could have said, we're changing our asylum procedures. We're taking money and we're investing in this region. We're setting up training and partnerships. We understand our past foreign policy created issues. We created, MS-13. All those they could have, taken accountability and responsibility, which they love so much for poor working class Black and brown folks. They could have, taken their own accountability. And instead, it was like, don't go, we're going to turn you away. That's not what people need to hear. Because at the end of the day, people are still coming because the impact of our policies are still devastating their communities. And we have to get real about immigration. We have to get real about like the wars that we support and that we displace people from Ethiopia to the South and Latin America to the Middle East. All these people, I argue all the time, have a right to come here and a right to come here freely because 100%. We're up there terrorizing their cities and their nations. I'm not a nativist. I'm not, an American first type person, because I believe like if you want to destroy somebody else's country, they have a first class ticket.
That's the thing. 100%. If you don't want refugees and asylum seekers, stop creating them.
Right.
That's it.
That's it. I mean, and it's I guess to further on, I mean, to kind of stay more in tune with this, we kind of also saw like, basically like one or two Democratic senators, one, Manchin from West Virginia, and I forget the white lady from Arizona, basically be like, stop all of these, we came out, we made sure like we had the Congress and the Senate, we got Biden, we got Harris, and all of these bills now are stuck because of basically, by all accounts, like this one senator in West Virginia, Manchin, who basically will not, agree to end the filibuster where you have to have this super majority of 60 senators. He's saying, no, we have to have bipartisanship. He's saying we got to have like Republican support of these bills, even though, Mitch McConnell went on record as the, senior Republican senator and said his whole goal is to block every single piece of Biden's agenda. Once again, like how do we, like when it's like, vote for these Democrats, so we can pass these bills and trying to change that. And like, here we go again. It was like, oh, that 2000 stimulus is going down, whatever. You know what I'm saying? So like, how do we handle that?
I mean, class solidarity folks are always going to stick with class solidarity folks, right?
True.
And so let me look, how do I say this correctly? And so we have to be like very honest about what we demand from our elected officials and our politicians, right? Am I shocked that a person from Virginia is like, I want to make sure, West Virginia, that I want to make sure more of my Caucasian brethren are on my side before I vote for something that's going to help Black and brown people? No, I'm not shocked. What I am irritated by is how Mitch McConnell operates the GOP, is how Biden and the DNC should be operating Democrats.
Right.
The fact is, all of these Democrats can sit there and say, I'm not going to vote for this bill. I'm not going to show up for this thing, because nobody has them in line for these party policies and agenda. McConnell was like, good, bad, or indifferent. We're not voting for this. Even if it's the best bill ever, we're not going to. And he has people in line. And he's basically able to wield power. We have to do the same thing. And we have to stop asking people who have literally said that they are doing whatever to hold power to 2024 to work. They're not going to.
Yeah, I mean, when it came to Supreme Court, it wasn't like McConnell was like, oh, we can't, Democrats don't agree with us. We can't like force this woman at the last minute on the Supreme Court. He went and did it. And he was like, we're about holding power. And I think, like you said, it's like by the end of the day, like you said it, wealthy white men are going to stick with wealthy white men. And at the end, like that's how it's always been, and it's particularly if it's something that's going to help poor Black and brown people, because he's probably looking at his own, political career and saying like, oh, if I pass this, Black and brown people might get me up out of there. You know what I'm saying? We just got, our mayor up out of there. Like, we're coming and taking power as Black and brown people, especially politically, over policy. And so he's probably like, man, if I make it easier for poor people and Black people and brown people to vote in my district, guess what? You might have a senator that grew up poor. You might have a senator that understands how it feels to be unemployed. That was the whole thing where they go at, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, like, oh, she was a bartender. Like, why wouldn't I want somebody to sit in Congress that has an experience working like as a working class person? Like, instead of these political dynasties where the next family puts in that, that you grew up rich and wealthy and you sit in this seat because of who your dad was or who your brother was. You know what I'm saying? That's my 2 cents.
I did have a challenge for Kamala, the whole Kamala piece, because it's like one thing I'm tired of. Challenge. We're gonna put the hashtag. One thing I'm tired of is these politicians acting like America got here legally. You know what I'm saying? Acting like this whole establishment was built off of the legal process. Like, people weren't killed, like whole villages weren't taken and forced to move to other locations because of what they wanted here in this country. So it's like, I don't want to hear about this legal process if we're not going to be honestly talking about how we as an establishment got here in the first place. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And continue to break laws, international laws, every single day, and support international law breakers every single day. So, but that's the thing. It's like, it kind of goes back, and we talked a little bit in pre-production, when it's Black and brown people, and we talked about it now, right? When it's us, take responsibility, pull yourselves up for your bootstraps, take responsibilities for things you've done in the past that were wrong. But when we're talking about these empires, that are constantly violating human rights or doing human rights abuses and doing illegal activity that won't even sign up for the International Crimes Court, because then they might be held accountable for their own abuses. It's like, nah, we're not going to talk about, you all have to do it. So it becomes like legal is for us, you know what I'm saying? But when it comes to these rich white folks, you can break law after law after law after law. I mean, we saw it with Donald Trump. I mean, it didn't matter how many women he sexually assaulted. It didn't matter that, he wasn't turning in his tax returns. It didn't matter how many things that he did illegally or morally wrong. He still was able to become president of the United States. And that's that 2-tiered system, that we're fighting against, as well. So we still got a lot of stuff. I don't know if y'all want to go OT, because it's still mad stuff that we got to talk about. But Saeed, you had a comment?
You said something. They like attaching a brown face to white supremacy, and Miracle has said class solidarity people are going to stick with class solidarity people. Yeah. There's an obsession with this in the political realm right now about classism and economic status. And the fact of the matter remains is that we comprise a majority of it, even though there's a dominant society. When Black people do these splinter cell groups of supporting Trump and taking action against the 1619 Project and sticking specifically with Black and brown coalitions, that's great. But don't isolate the fact that Chairman Fred came up with this fantastic blueprint called the Rainbow Coalition, and that solidarity there. Even though when we do advocate for the Blackness first, but we uplift everybody when we pull ourselves up. When Black people are able to galvanize, everybody's going to benefit that. Absolutely. Someone like myself who is Black and Arab, I'm not just going to sit here and pick Black issues when it's convenient or pick Arab issues when it's convenient, because they both impact me on a daily strategy, like on a daily level. So I have to strategize and think about this as I got to appear for Palestine as much as I got to appear for the ends, right? And the struggle ain't different. So for us to sit here and try to isolate these issues, it further segments and fragments our ability to be able to galvanize it, right? So when you have someone that's brown adhering to tenets of white supremacy, we got who in the Black community is tearing that shit down, right? Are you going to speak out about Kamala the same way you're going to speak out against, Mitch McConnell? You have to narrow your scope. You get me?
Yeah, I think you make a good point, because I remember, and it's a Arab sister, a professor academic Matha, that talked about that. That it was like the civil, like that her family was able to come here because of the strides made during the civil rights movement. That a lot of people don't make that connect, and she had to tell her family, to say hey, you're here because of the struggle that Black people endured and fought back 100%. In this country. And so, like you said, when we rise, we do bring, other folks with us. I think that's an important thing to know, particularly as, folks are attacking what they're called critical race theory. Like you brought it up, and people, even though people don't know what it is.
It's interesting, bro. It's almost like white supremacy tries to find, bro. They be trying to find new targets. You know what I'm saying? It's like, first we weren't able to be considered citizens, and now look at what's going on with immigration and stuff like that.
So we're not picking on. We don't want to pick on nobody that's might be on our panel that's from Georgia, but Georgia passed this resolution. Georgia passed this resolution, and I just want to read a little bit of it. So this is Georgia's resolution, all right, and this was about this pushback against the 1619 Project, which talked about the America's real history that was put together by Black and brown and indigenous scholars. You know what I'm saying? Controlling the narrative. And the idea that critical race theory is going to permeate the classroom. So in Georgia, they passed this resolution, and they said, the resolution states in part that the board believes no state education agency, school district, or school shall teach or instruct concepts regarding race in the classroom that make an individual feel discomfort, guilt, anguish, or any form of psychological distress on account of his or her race or sex.
White supremacy going white supremacy.
I mean, the idea. So then it makes me wonder, like what agency, as a student, can I just say, hey, y'all talking about George Washington? He was a slave trader. That's making me uncomfortable. What do I? How does this work? Who makes these decisions? Is something that I wonder. But I don't know. What do y'all feel?
Miracle? First of all, Georgia, we're just having segregated proms a couple of years ago. We literally murdered people because they could not vote. We have literally segregated and tried to do figure out if people were documented or not based on skin color a few years ago, right? So we've got
one
issues.
of the worst one of the worst anti-immigration laws was in Georgia
by one of my high school volunteer people. But it makes no sense. Again, a lot of these really super conservative laws and resolutions are geared for these long-term Supreme Court battles because Republicans play the long game for like power. But it's this idea that people remember a few years ago, it was the moral majority, and it was gay marriage. Then it was like dare just say no on drugs. There's always some type of like moral call that, you know, we are in these culture wars that conservatives use to galvanize their base based on a fear of a other or a fear of unknown. And right now it's critical race theory, which is like it's such a good, like, if y'all read Derek Bell, it's such a good theory because it's talking about like the how and why and how to analyze laws and procedures. Yes, there are some people who do not understand critical race theory, like that white woman who told people to be less white at Coca-Cola. That maybe was not like the best thing or the best excuse, but like that was her talking colloquially to people like in the group that believed what she was saying. But critical race theory is just talking about analyzing kind of like your power grid analysis. There's so many different theories out there. But the fact is, like, to watch these people get riled up, and a lot of times people like, we don't even teach critical race theory in the school. It's a college level, usually it's a college level course, makes it hilarious. But also this one lady, I think it was in Ohio, was talking about, you know, she feels that when she talks about her conservative beliefs, people don't want to be around her, and people not wanting to be around you and you not having the right to say something are two completely different things. 100%. I need people to understand that, like, you could still have a conversation, and how are you preparing people for the real world if you're not going to talk about real world issues? I'm very confused.
And not even that, Miracle. Is like how can you talk about the real truth? It goes back to what Trouble just said. How are you going to talk about the real truth about how this country came to be, and unless you make people uncomfortable? Like, it came to the real truth. It came to be on the genocide of indigenous people. It came to be on the enslavement, brutality, rape, and murder of African people. Like, this isn't something that we made up. This isn't something that, like, no, this is how it happened. And like the idea that, like, you know, but like you said, like, you can only put that quote unquote moral, America's the greatest country, it's so much opportunity, oh, it's so great, it's always been great, we have to make it great again as it was in the past. You can only do that by lying. Like, you can only, like, the whole narrative is a lie. And so, like, you have to, you know, create, like in Texas, they created this 1836 project where it's like, we're going to teach patriotic education. Basically, you're saying you're teaching. I mean, you can call it propaganda, but you're teaching lies, and you're teaching this lie. And the biggest lie, you know, we want to talk about the election, but the big lie is white supremacy itself. The idea that being white makes you superior. That's the biggest lie that all these other lies are built upon. Because when you get into the real truth of what happened, you should be uncomfortable that, you know, these individuals, these ancestors did that. You know what I'm saying? You should be uncomfortable. But all of us have to reconcile with some uncomfortable truths, whether it be personally or whether it be things that maybe our ancestors did or participated in us. All of us going to have to reconcile with that. If you're going to deal with the truth, somebody's going to be uncomfortable. So if it's about making people uncomfortable, then we just all going to be some liars.
I just read what the first thesis statement is of the 1836 project. It is to commemorate when Texas won its independence from Mexico. That's not how that went down. That's literally not how it happened. You didn't win independence from Mexico. You stole land from Mexico.
You stole land. And how was that land apportioned? And how was that land apportioned? Can somebody tell me? Because I heard it was per slave. That's why you got land depending on how many slaves you owned. But you know,
Miracle, don't you come up here with that critical race theory? Don't you come up here?
But man, that shit is wild.
Right. But I mean, I think but that's what we're fighting against. We're fighting, and that's really what you're fighting against, a narrative of lies. You know what I'm saying? And it's like people are more comfortable with the lie because of how it makes them feel. It makes them feel good. You know what I'm saying? Instead of dealing with the truth, that now you have to reconcile with that. Now we have to start talking about reparations. Now we have to start talking about reparations for Black people, reparations for indigenous people. You know what I'm saying? Reparations to Mexico for what you stole. You have to start talking about those things once you acknowledge the truth, which is why Kamala's out here just saying, don't come. You know what I'm saying?
I'm starting to notice that people don't have the will for truth, especially like politicians, because that comes with responsibility. Once we start digging into the truth, then you have to actually be responsible for what you do, responsible for what you say, and then you actually have to start showing up in different ways if the ways you've been showing up have been harming people. But people have built whole careers off of harming people, whole personalities off of harming people. It's almost like people can't even begin to imagine what life would be like if they didn't harm people anymore. You know, if they didn't profit off of other people's downfall and shit like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, because then white supremacy begins to end. Like to face the truth means the end of white supremacy. And so, like, how dare this Black woman lead this project that told us about ourselves? You know what I'm saying? Like, we gotta outlaw it, and we gotta outlaw her. Miracle, you had something to say?
I guess I don't know how to say this. I guess I was raised in a pro-Black realistic environment where we learned about Tulsa, we learned about Rosewood, we knew about racial discrimination. So I do not really understand why people are clutching their pearls around critical race. I really legitimately do not understand about the issue about learning about race and racism and like bigotry. Like if you read the books of the war generals, if you read the books of the foundings, their letters, they tell you how that. So I'm just very confused about why people get like flustered and upset. And also, I think that like when we talk about historical figures, I feel it's more powerful to be like, you know, so and so may have had a moral failing, but they were able to galvanize so many people around this issue. So and so, you know, we look at people like Tukey Williams, and you look at people who were out here in the community. I think it shows that, like, just because someone does a horrible thing doesn't mean that they're precluded from changing their lives or making better in the end. I think that's a more powerful testimony, right? Like, we created this country, we created this democratic project on some of the most effed up ways, but from that we've been able to slowly possibly experiment with equity and equality. And what is the next phase of this project look like if we have these reparations and this full equity? I don't understand why that is such a challenge to power and to supremacy, because that was like, it just makes sense. It's like when you find out your parents are like messed up individuals, but you still love them regardless, right? So like, if we're still going to love people regardless, why can't we just remove the veil and have an honest conversation? That's like kind of where I'm at with it.
Well, I think it's like part of white supremacy is you like deify these peoples, right? Like you said, Columbus said in his own words, hey, look, they got gold here and we can make them slaves. Like he said in his own word, like we don't even have to bring like, hey, who we bring into the Columbus himself? Like, just like you said, like it's in Thomas Jefferson's own writing. It's in their own writing. It's in their own words. But like, we prefer to deify these people. We want to create these huge monuments like Mount Rushmore. And you know, it kind of goes back to, remember when people was like canceling certain people and Trump was like, hey, you know, if you keep canceling folks, you're gonna have to cancel the founding fathers. Yeah, like we should look, but just like you said, we can say, hey, you know, America as a concept is good, and we're, you know, we're here, and we're happy to be able to have a participatory democracy, at least in some sense. You know what I'm saying? But we can also, just like you said, acknowledge that, you know, that for many years most people didn't have an opportunity to participate in it. And guess what's happening now? Soon as we come together and get to voting, Here y'all come trying to make it so we can't vote again. Like, come on, man. So I think it's like all that's that narrative, you know what I'm saying? And it kind of, part of why we're One Hood Media is because we understand like we have to push back against these dominant narratives, which are filled with lies, you know what I'm saying? So we're gonna try to come at y'all with the truth, you know what I'm saying? Which is why y'all need to stay tuned in, watching, and support us as well, you know what I'm saying? Support us. So before I did want to get into our Terry Crews of the week, I think, do we want to do Terry Crews of the week, and maybe we can do our Karen of the week, and then we can kind of get up out of here, because our Terry Crews of the week, to me, is like one of the worst instances of Terry Crewsing that I have ever heard. And this was where was this coach at? Farouk,
Ohio.
Right.
Ohio.
A black football coach in Ohio that forced one of his students, football players, to eat pork, even though this student said that this went against his religious belief. This student was a Hebrew Israelite. This student said he did not, ascribe to eating pork per his religious beliefs. But, the coach said if he didn't eat this pepperoni pizza, that he would punish the other football players. And this was part of his whatever process. This coach has been fired, but I can't imagine. I practice Islam. I consider myself a Muslim. I can't imagine me sitting home. I can't imagine my child walking into the door and say, somebody forced me to make them eat pork. Where they at? You know what I'm saying? That's when you call the Muslim hotline. We all meeting at so-and-so's house.
The Pike Squad making an appearance. We making a comeback.
Oh my God. I can't imagine. I know I don't know. Anybody else have feelings around this coach?
I've had, I've been an athlete my whole life, and I've had some wild coaches. I've had some really difficult coaches. Never, ever had I had even heard, and this is why Diddy took the kettlebell to that nigga's head in the locker room. Because people, like you think, you gotta keep in mind, people are protective of their children. And 100%. You get that God complex and you put a whistle around your neck and think that the buck stops here. Nah, my nigga, them is still somebody's children at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And that violate religion.
That's what's crazy.
Violate someone's religion.
We're in Western Pennsylvania and we say like football's a religion, and I get it. Like, we love football, we love the Steelers. I'm sure it's that way on Ohio, but hold on, like you're gonna put a practice. I gotta go like Al Iverson, practice.
What did a man like Loaded Luck say? How you gonna disrespect God? Ain't it evil to live backwards?
He did say that. That was hard. That was a hard line.
Like,
ain't it evil to live backwards?
Ain't it evil to live backwards?
Yeah.
Like,
and that's the thing.
God.
Yeah. You were saying something, Trouble. You had a comment on this?
I just had a quick comment about, like, I did kind of briefly skim this article, and I seen one important piece of information, which was that the practice was optional. It was an optional practice. Bro didn't even have to go to this practice, and he forces him to eat pork for an optional practice. That makes zero sense to me. That made it worse.
That means more kicks to ribs, bro. I gotta give you some optional. You about to get this optional ass. This ass beat actually is not optional. It's mandatory. Like, that's wow. Miracle, did you have a comment on this?
People don't run the streets like they used to. It's like my first thought, right? It's like, but this idea again, we're talking about like how do you, and I'm assuming because he's a Hebrew Israelite, it's a black student, right? So how are you as a black man going hard on this black student, knowing at the end of the day when he's eating something that he's not familiar with and messes with his digestive system, it could cause actual health issues, which basically puts your whole practice in jeopardy additionally, right? And there's so many other things that I've watched coaches do for people who don't engage in practice, right? So beyond the religion, there's football is a lot that goes on there, but it's like you could have done something else. You could have made him eat. I've seen allegedly, I've watched as coaches, make people like eat old food or drink a bunch of water or drink a bunch of Gatorade and run through, do like these power drills, as to build up and remember that if you
right.
all type of stuff, because you mess up, the whole team messes up. You do a bad hit, someone else can get hurt. So we understand the importance of practice, but it's like, bro, literally, and maybe I'm hypersensitive, like the food issues because I have food allergies, but like it would not have been my like I would have been smiling in my booking photo, and you would have known I did it, and it would have been like, and I'm gonna do it again. Like we just want to keep catching the fade because it's a child who's in your care. And you just disrespect their religion and their nutrition and their health. It makes absolutely no sense, but it's just ridiculous. And it's a black man because once again, black people can be white supremacists and blackface
all the time. And so I guess we want to show our last video, our Karen of the week, which is I guess he's a Ken. You know what I'm saying? And this was a video where a sister who is the this is one of the things that's happening right now, right? We're recognizing that a lot of these statues are folks that are racist, and so folks are asking these statues to be brought down because of the racist history of these statues. And so this black woman is commissioner in Tennessee, was tasked to leading this effort to take these statues down, and this white man was mad. I don't understand. Like, put a poster up on your house. Like, you can still honor these people. Let's just play the video. Let's play our Can of the Week video.
I'm more man than you are.
Well, I'm more of a gentleman than you'll ever be.
It's communist.
You're a communist.
James Baldwin was called a communist.
You're a communist.
General Bedford Forrest?
Yes.
Yeah, they said Bedford Forrest. Yeah.
It's not even, it's being relocated. It should be being,
Y'all a statement and say that this was a powerful moment. I was going to connect it to Tulsa. I was going to connect it to the Memphis Massacre. You know who else has been called a communist? They called Martin Luther King a communist. They called Angela Davis a communist. They called the Black Panthers communists. James Baldwin was called a communist. James Weldon Johnson was called a communist. Muhammad Ali was called a communist. Coward. That's what these people are. They're cowards.
Yeah, I'm a coward. Stand right here behind me.
So you said you were gonna beat my I'm right here. Hide behind the fence. Come beat my
You ever say you behind a fence, my nigga?
I'm more man than you are.
Well, I'm more of a gentleman than you'll ever be.
Remember that.
Yeah, I think it goes back to what you said, Miracle.
Audre Lorde once said, they
Well,
will kill you and say you like it. I'm not gonna let him kill me. But if he does, you know who to go find, right?
And that's the thing, like,
they're not even hiding it, right? Like, you're supposed to pretend that you care about history, and it's about the Sons of the Confederacy, and it's about like the history of America. But you bring up the Confederate flag, you do like they're not even hired. Like, I personally, I love museums. Like, museums are my jam, right? Like, send me to a museum. I think a lot of these statues and all type of stuff belong in museums and on statue tours and national parks where you can go and you can have teachings and you can look at like all of the statues of people from all across the country from time on down, right? I personally don't understand statues and monuments. I really don't. Like, if you like somebody, put a picture of them in your house. Like, I don't like, maybe a picture of a globe, a picture of a comb. People are flawed again. And we have to remember all of these people are flawed, even as someone who loves like my Black freedom fighters. We know most of them are very problematic.
Yes.
In a lot of ways, right? So am I going to go build like a statue of Cleaver and outside? Probably not.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't understand why
Can I get a
people have
statue?
such You can get whatever statue you would like. Sure.
Little wax. You get a bobblehead. We'll get a Farouk bobblehead.
That shit would be hot. That shit would be hot.
I hate people. Like, why do you not name schools after people? A school should be school number 1, school number 2, school number 3. We can just alleviate all this confusion and chaos. But put it in the museum. Go to a museum and see the shit. Like, not outside.
I think that, part of it is, I'm gonna be honest, Miracle. I don't even think it was about the statue. I think it was the fact that this black woman had the power to have it removed. And like I said, they didn't even say melt it down, which that's what I would have recommended. Melt that bitch down and use it as something else. They didn't even do that. They just removed.
I mean, the Bible did say that. The Bible did say when you beat people, you have to remove all of the images. But
right.
I'm not a Christian, so I don't.
Yeah, but I'm saying like the Sons of the Confederacy actually participated in this process, and it was moved to wherever their thing is at. So the Sons of the Confederacy actually was approved this process. But I think it was the fact that here is this black woman that is in power. She's doing this press conference. This is what he had a problem with. He had a problem with the fact that this black woman had the power to get this white dude statue up out of there. And he saw that as a threat to his power. The rise of black people. It goes back to all this stuff we've been talking about. So to me, that's what it was. How this black, because he's looking back, he's looking at the statue and was like, this is when we could just go up to black people and smack them in their face and throw them up and lynch them and nothing happened to us. Like, we could just do with black people as we please. We can, they were subservient to us. If we seen a black town we ain't like, we just burned it down. Nothing. I mean, we talked about Tulsa last week. Not one person was arrested for the Tulsa massacre. Not one person. And so here's this white dude wishing he still had that power today. But guess what? And I bet you if he'd have came over that fence, he would have got his ass whooped too on camera. You know what I'm saying? But it goes back to Miracle. Like, we do, hey, folks in the street, I don't know, man. I just feel a certain type of way, you know what I'm saying, that, that sister was there, and I didn't see a lot of people with her. They might have been there. They might have been out of the camera. But I would say, the next time that sister does a press conference, I would hope that there will be a lot of people there with her. You know what I'm saying? She in Memphis. Where's my money bag? Yo, like, call your people, bro. We got time today. You know what I'm saying? Like, call your people. And let's make sure that this sister is supported and backed. And it's like, if this a man you want to fight, well, what's up, bro? Now, we're about nonviolence over here. We don't want to bother nobody.
Peace,
we don't
love,
want to bother nobody. We just want to do things that benefit and bring black people joy and solidarity and liberation. That's all. You know what I'm saying? But if you're going to start threatening, nah, we're not with that. And so shout out to Tammy Sawyer, you know what I'm saying? Continue doing our work, but let's, particularly as black men, next time she shows up, it should be a bunch of brothers there, and not that she shouldn't have to call nobody. We should show up and be like, oh, sis gonna be there. We're going to show up to make sure that she's good. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to her and her work. Who got our white pages? What is our book of the week? Can you read us what that says?
I've been practicing my phonetics and my font, actually. But I appreciate you for asking me if I could read it or not. I appreciate that. Today, our white pages, our illustrious white pages, is a message, a love letter to black women, formerly black girls, called Dear Black Girl. And it's written by the illustrious sister Tamara Winfrey Harris. This is co-signed by Tarana Burke, co-founder of the Me Too, or founder of the Me Too movement. And it's important literature for young black girls, for adolescent black girls, for black women. And I can read this book because now I have the power.
I think Tarana got a book that just came out as well. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I thought she did. Yeah, I thought she had one that just came out. I thought I seen that.
Yeah, I think it made New York bestseller. Shout out to Tarana Burke and her incredible work as well. And then our call to action is an event. Do you have that information of the event tomorrow, Miracle, for our call to action?
Yes. So we're talking about loving and protecting black women. Tomorrow, I believe, I want to say it was in Braddock. Let me make sure it's the address. It's the birthday party for Tony Turner, who is a young woman from the Pittsburgh area who has been missing for almost a year, and so we still would ask people to put, their white candles or a candle in their window if their house is a safe space. But people are just going to be throwing a birthday party for her tomorrow, and so we'll put the event link in the chat. So you can always donate. You can find hashtag find Tony Turner to find out more information.
Actually,
about her.
I got the time. It's from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. And like you said, the Braddock Civic Plaza, and that's the time tomorrow from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. And let's keep our sister in our prayers, our family in our prayers. And it's it'll be making clay flowers to honor missing women. And so that's something that we definitely support. So shout out to the organizers of that event. I don't know. Farouk I don't know. We don't know what happened to Farouk, but he's lost. So anyway, tomorrow on Tilt is tomorrow at 12 p.m. Get your dose of mental health support. Friday is also Black Light, which will be with Jam the Poet. You know what I'm saying? Who's an amazing artist. He's one of the artists that will also be performing at Art is Liberation. One Hood got a Juneteenth event as well. It's at the City of Asylum, the tent on Samsonia Way. It's Friday, June 18th. It will feature 15 Black visual artists. You could come, you could buy their work and support their work, as well as we have 3 One Hood performers performing. Brittany Chantel, Jam the Poet, NLS Ron, and QRX will be DJing. We're going to have Jamaican food that's for free. And we want folks to come out and join us. That'll be Friday, June 18th, from 4 to 8. You know what I'm saying? And you can meet, maybe if you watch the show and you've never met us in person, here's the opportunity. Miracle will be there signing autographs.
No, not be signing autographs.
Farouk will be there signing bobbleheads. He will be signing Farouk bobbleheads. Trouble will not be there, but he will be there in spirit, because we love that brother.
For sure.
Yes. Yes. So hopefully we will see y'all, June 18th, at City of Asylum for Art is Liberation. Come kick it with us. Yeah, come kick it with us.
Now, if you don't know how to act, you can stay home because we don't need the police called.
We do not. Yes. Please come only if you know how to act. You know what I'm saying? Only if you can kick it with us. Please join us.
Chill. Wear your mask. It's spaced out.
It's outside.
It'll be fine.
Yes, it's outside. It'll be spaced out.
Yes, dark chocolate and a chopped cheese, because I feel like you went to Philly and you owe me that too. So yes.
So we will see y'all next week. Until then, peace, love, One Hood, y'all.
Bye,
Never
y'all.
lose sight. Peace out.
Welcome to the whitest house. Slave souls haunt the halls when the light is out. They suck the blood of the poor and they wipe their mouth. The last gas of a world that is dying out. Welcome to the whitest house, where every room is a tomb that they lie about. Where you can put your filthy feet on the finest couch, and for the right amount, you can even buy